The third dent in the wall was from the coffee mug she said was vintage. I didn't mean to throw it. It just kind of fell hard, like my trust in her. The first dent was from my elbow 2 hours earlier, when I opened the hallway closet and found a shopping bag I didn't recognize, with a men's hoodie inside. Not mine. Definitely not hers. Smelled like cedar and mint. Tag still on it. It even had a receipt, which was cute, considering it was from a boutique 3 towns away, dated last Wednesday, the day she said she worked late. The second dent came from when I sat on the bed too fast and broke the drawer handle again. That's when I remembered I bought this entire bed set while she was in Mexico with her friends, and she never once said thank you. Just complained the headboard was a little too masculine. The final dent, the coffee mug one, that was when I opened her desk drawer looking for packing tape and instead found a printed itinerary for a cabin trip. Not Oregon like she claimed. Not with Chloe, Jenna, and Mindy either. No, this cabin trip was for 2 people, and it had her name printed on it alongside a man named Curtis. Curtis. I don't know any Curtis. She never mentioned a Curtis. But apparently Curtis knew enough to split a luxury Lakeview suite with my wife, complete with a couple's massage and candlelit dinner the first night. And while she posted a story of her girls giggling in a bubble bath, I found myself sitting on the carpet, breathing into a half-empty pizza box, surrounded by trash bags, bubble wrap, and a pile of my dignity. I didn't even know what I was taking with me anymore. I packed my socks, left my shaving kit, grabbed the microwave, unplugged the router, left her wedding ring in the fridge, and then stood there in the middle of the living room wondering if I'd ever really been in this marriage at all, or if I was just some plot device in her personal rebranding story. The truth is, I don't even think she was going to tell me. I think she was going to come back from her girls' trip, set down her suitcase, scroll through her phone, and pretend nothing happened. She was going to act like Curtis was a figment of my insecurity. Like all of it, the hoodie, the spa reservation, the unread messages I wasn't supposed to see, was just my imagination. So I made sure she couldn't gaslight me when she got back. I left with proof. Every screenshot, every receipt, every lie, organized in a manila folder, sealed in a plastic zip bag, and taped to her mirror with a note that said, I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I just left. But the part one didn't expect? What I found in the neighbor's mailbox an hour later. That changed everything. I didn't plan to check the mailbox. I wasn't looking for more evidence. I already had enough. Enough to destroy her lies. Enough to bury the fake laughs and filtered selfies she used to hide the decay between us. But there I was, fumbling for my car keys, still shaky from the adrenaline of packing, and I noticed her name on a yellow envelope poking out of our neighbor's box. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's illegal to open someone else's mail, and maybe I shouldn't have touched it. But the thing is, it wasn't addressed to our neighbor. It was addressed to her maiden name, a name she hadn't used in years. And more importantly, the handwriting on it was unmistakably personal. I took it. I justified it as instinct. But deep down, I think I already knew. I tore it open in my car like I was defusing a bomb. Inside was a single folded page, handwritten in blue ink, on what looked like the back of a restaurant menu. The first words? I wish I'd met you before he did. My throat dried instantly. The letter wasn't long, but it didn't need to be. Curtis, yes, Curtis, had written her a goodbye. Or at least, that's how it started. He said he was tired of waiting for a woman who keeps pretending she's trapped, that he couldn't keep being her secret, that if she wasn't going to leave me soon, he'd rather be alone. This hurts, he wrote, because I actually thought you meant it last time. Last time? There had been a last time? I read that line 3 times. My fingers clenched the paper so tightly I nearly tore it. My heart wasn't even racing. It was doing that slow, underwater thud like when you've stayed in an ice bath too long and your body doesn't know whether to panic or pass out. He talked about weekends she spent with the girls, moments she cried about being trapped, how he wanted to save her, but felt like the villain every time she crawled back into the life she swore she hated. I felt sick, physically sick. The kind of betrayal where you don't cry, you just sit there, locked in a trance, wondering how many moments you thought were real were actually rehearsed. And then came the real kicker, the bottom of the page, in slightly Messier handwriting. But if you change your mind, you know where I'll be. Same cabin, same room, just say the word. He had circled the word same room twice. I didn't know what hurt more, the existence of the letter, or the fact that she never even had the decency to end it with him. She just strung us both along, one husband and one backup fantasy, like we were two tabs on her browser, waiting to be closed when convenient. Suddenly, the quiet way I'd planned to leave didn't feel like justice anymore. It felt like a gift, and she didn't deserve gifts. I drove straight to my brother's house. Didn't call, didn't text, just knocked on his door with 3 boxes and a heart full of cement. He looked at me, looked at the ring still on my finger, and didn't ask a single question. Just moved aside. That night, while she was posting boomerangs of wine glasses clinking, I was printing out everything, screenshots, the letter, even the receipt from the hoodie I found in her closet. I arranged them into a folder titled, "For When You Get Back." I didn't plan to confront her. I didn't want her excuses. I wanted silence. I wanted her to come home to an apartment emptier than her promises. No husband, no router, no photos, just a hollow echo and a mirror that finally reflected the truth. But fate had a cruel little twist in mind, because the next morning, before she ever returned, someone else showed up at the door, and he was looking for her. He looked like someone you'd see in an ad for hiking boots, tall, clean-shaven, that kind of rugged but accessible look. When I opened the door, I thought he had the wrong address. Maybe a new neighbor, maybe a delivery guy. But then he spoke. "Is Margot here?" I stared at him for a second too long. I almost laughed. I think my brain tried to eject from my body. Margot, her name coming out of a stranger's mouth, casually, like this was just another Tuesday. I didn't answer. I just studied his face, because something about it was off. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't casual. He looked nervous. I'm sorry, I said finally. "Who are you?" He hesitated. That was the first red flag. Most people don't hesitate when introducing themselves. His eyes flicked toward the hallway behind me, like he was expecting her to round the corner at any moment. "I'm Cal," he said. "I work with her. She said she'd be back by now." Work with her? Margot worked from home. Or so she said. She'd been doing freelance marketing for over a year, which meant she had clients, deadlines, and Zoom calls I was never allowed to overhear. She'd claimed her new project was too sensitive to discuss, and I'd bought it. Like a chump. But now Cal was standing in front of me, real and awkward, carrying a tote bag and an expression that said I know more than I'm letting on. "She's not here," I said slowly. "She's out of town." He looked surprised. Not just surprised, confused. "Oh, I thought she said she canceled that." "Canceled what?" "The trip. The spa thing." I felt my stomach twist into a knot so tight I couldn't breathe for a second. "She didn't cancel anything," I said flatly. "She left 2 days ago." Cal took a half step back like I'd just smacked him with a frying pan. Maybe I misunderstood. She said she'd be back early. We were supposed to go over final campaign numbers together." "Right. Campaign numbers. Are you her client?" I asked. "No. I'm her." He stopped. Looked down. "Friend." That word hung in the air like a bad smell. Friend. He knew who I was. I could see it all over his face. He wasn't just confused, he was embarrassed. And now I was the one who took a step back. "How long have you known her?" I asked. "About 8 months. 8 months. Did you know she was married?" Silence. Then finally, so quiet I almost didn't hear it, he said, "Not at first." And there it was. The dam breaking. The confirmation I didn't even realize I'd been waiting for. My wife hadn't just had an affair, she'd built a shadow life. A different version of herself that she curated like an Instagram feed. And this man, this poor idiot, was just as tangled in her lies as I was. Cal looked genuinely uncomfortable. He started to turn away. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Wait," I said. "Come inside." He paused. "I just left her," I added. "You want the truth? You came to the right place." We sat at the kitchen table like two survivors at the scene of a crash. I poured us both coffee that had been sitting on the warmer since morning. Bitter, burnt, appropriate. Cal looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "She told me you were separated," he said, almost defensively. "Of course she did," I replied. "What else?" He winced. "That you'd moved out. That you cheated first. That you were emotionally unstable." I barked a laugh I didn't mean to let out. "That part might be true now." "I didn't know," he muttered, shaking his head. "She said she didn't want to introduce me to anyone until things were settled." Things were settled. In my mind. He pulled out his phone, opened a text. "This was from 2 days ago," he said, and slid it across the table. Can't wait to finally spend time with you without sneaking around. I'm glad I chose you. Chose. She chose him. That's what she said. And yet, she was still lying to him, too. My hands trembled. Not from rage, but from this overwhelming wave of clarity. She didn't just betray me. She betrayed everyone. She was addicted to deception like it was a second oxygen supply. One lie fed another, until the entire architecture of our marriage was just scaffolding holding up a fantasy. Cal stared at me like he expected me to punch him or cry or scream. Instead, I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and came back with the manila folder I had prepared. I slapped it down in front of him. You deserve to know what you're part of, I said. Don't make the same mistake I did. Don't wait. He opened it, slowly, and when he saw what was inside, he whispered, Jesus. I'll be gone by nightfall, I said. You can decide whether or not you want to be here when she gets back. He didn't say anything, just nodded. And then he sat there, frozen, rereading the same page over and over like he was trying to wake up from a dream. I walked out of my own apartment without looking back. But she wasn't done with me yet, because later that night, she called me from a number I didn't recognize. And what she said left me stunned. The call came in just after 11 p.m. I was on my brother's couch, half watching some late-night cooking show I didn't care about, half scrolling through apartments I couldn't afford. My phone buzzed once, then again. Unknown number. No caller ID. I almost didn't answer. I almost let it ring out like I'd been doing all day. But something about the timing, something about the silence between us since I walked out, made my thumb hover over the green icon. I answered. At first, I didn't say anything. Just listened. And then her voice broke through the static. Dwight. Just hearing her say my name made my chest tighten. Not in a romantic way. More like hearing a fire alarm you can't shut off. I didn't reply. Dwight, I know you're there. Please don't hang up. Still silent. I came home, and everything's gone. Where are you? What is happening? I spoke quietly. Check the mirror. Silence. A breath. A shuffle. Then, oh my God, she whispered. She had found the manila folder. The photos. The screenshots. The hoodie receipt. The letter from Curtis I left taped to the inside flap. And my message, scrawled in thick black ink on the back of our rent agreement. If you ever respected me, even once, you'll let this be the last time we speak. But she didn't let it be the last time. She exhaled like she'd just run a marathon. You went through my stuff? I almost laughed. That's what you're opening with. No. I can't believe you'd actually. She cut herself off, catching her own line mid-breath. Dwight, please. You don't understand. Oh, I think I do now. There was a pause. The kind that tries to rewrite a whole history in 3 seconds. That letter from Curtis, she began, was supposed to stay hidden. Yeah, I figured. I never responded to it, she said. I didn't go there for him. Then who was the luxury suite for? Chloe? Jenna? Or were you going to surprise me with receipts for all your loyalty? You're twisting things. No. I snapped, for the first time raising my voice. You twisted things when you made me believe our distance was my fault. When you said you were working late, while sneaking off with someone who thinks you're still the victim. She didn't deny it. Instead, she sighed. I didn't plan this. It just happened. I was there too, Margot. I was in this marriage every single day. I kept showing up, thinking I was building something. Meanwhile, you were out here, crafting a backup life. I was unhappy. So you cheat. You were distant. So you lie. I didn't know what else to do. There it was. The ultimate coward's anthem. You leave, I said. You sit your husband down and say, I don't love you anymore. Or I need space. Or this isn't working. You don't create alternate realities. You don't recruit side characters to play the role of savior while your actual life partner is out here holding up the ceiling. Her voice cracked. Dwight, you're making this harder than it has to be. Harder? She said that to me. Did Cal know about Curtis? I asked. Silence again. She knew she was cornered. I'm not doing this, I said. I already walked out. You can keep your little fantasy world. Just don't expect me to stay in it. But we haven't talked. Not really. Don't you think we at least owe it to? I hung up, and that felt like closure. Or at least the start of it. But the real twist came 2 days later. Because apparently, walking away wasn't the end. Not for her. Not for Cal. And especially not for Curtis. Because on Thursday morning, I got an email. Not from her. From someone I'd never heard of. Subject line. You don't know me, but I think we've both been lied to. It started like any other junk message. Plain white background, no attachments, just a simple subject line that looked more like a scam than anything real. You don't know me, but I think we've both been lied to. I almost deleted it. I really did. But something in me, that gnawing instinct that had kept me sane the past week, told me to open it. And when I did, my hands went cold. The email was from a woman named Elise. She said she found me through a tagged photo on Margot's old birthday post. The one with the caption, "Building our weird little life together, Yellowheart," posted just 5 months before she started sneaking around with Curtis. Elise had apparently been dating Curtis for nearly 2 years. Yes, 2. She said she'd seen a message pop up on his laptop when he left it open on the counter one night. It was from someone saved as M, and the preview read, "I miss you more when he's home." Elise didn't know who he was until she searched Margot's name and found me. The email wasn't aggressive. It wasn't emotional. It was surgical. Elise had done her homework. She included screenshots, ones I'd never seen before. Messages Curtis sent to Margot while I was still playing Husband of the Year. Ones where he whined about how hard it was to watch her pretend to love me. Ones where she told him not to worry, because Dwight doesn't even ask questions anymore. She even included a photo. A selfie of Curtis and Margot, standing under a giant metal sculpture that I recognized immediately. It was in Chicago. They took it the same weekend I drove 6 hours to help Margot's mom move after her knee surgery. She said she couldn't come with me because of client calls. I stared at the screen, hands frozen on the keyboard, and for the first time in this entire ordeal, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt strategy. This wasn't just betrayal. This was planning. They built this behind my back like it was some startup company. Margot wasn't confused. She wasn't torn. She was double-dipping between 2 separate men, 2 separate versions of herself, and now both those realities were starting to crash into each other. Elise ended the email with a short line. "I don't know what you plan to do with this, but I thought you deserved to know who she really is. Good luck, Dwight." Good luck. Like I was about to walk into a storm, and she was handing me an umbrella with one broken spoke. I didn't reply to her right away. I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at the wall in my brother's guest room, feeling like the last 7 years of my life had been a movie I hadn't agreed to star in. Margot had somehow managed to hurt 2 people at once, and now both those people were slowly stitching the story together from the scraps she left behind. Later that night, I went back to the manila folder and added Elise's email to it. I printed out the screenshots. All of it. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew I wasn't done. I thought I'd walked away. I thought leaving the apartment was the final chapter. But now, I realized, I hadn't even turned the page yet. Then came the kicker. The next morning, I got a message request on Instagram. From Curtis. No hello. No explanation. Just this. "We need to talk. Before she tells you something that ruins both our lives." I didn't even know what that meant. Was he scared she'd flip the story? That she'd turn us against each other? Was there more? And if there was, how deep did it go? Because suddenly, I wasn't sure if I had the full picture. I wasn't sure if any of us did. And by that point, I was done sitting quietly. So I messaged Curtis back. 3 words. Name the place. He picked a neutral spot. Not a bar, not a diner. A coffee shop in the middle of a strip mall, just far enough from the city that no one would recognize us. I parked 20 minutes early, pacing in my car like I was preparing for a court appearance. It felt surreal. I was about to meet the man who'd helped shatter my marriage, not through some fluke or misunderstanding, but through months of whispered promises and weekend rendezvous while I was at home refilling the Brita filter and folding sheets we used to share. When Curtis finally walked in, I hated how normal he looked. He wasn't flashy, not smug, not the cartoon villain I wanted him to be. Just a man in a gray hoodie and jeans, with tired eyes and a rigid posture. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Maybe he hadn't. I stayed seated. Didn't shake his hand. He didn't offer it. "You Dwight?" he asked, even though he already knew. "You Curtis?" I replied, though I already hated the sound of his name. He sat down across from me without ordering a thing. The barista didn't even glance at us. Bless her. I didn't want any witnesses if this went sideways. For a full 30 seconds, we said nothing. Then he broke the silence. "I didn't know you existed. Not at first." "I've heard that line before," I said. "It's the truth. And yet, here we are." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, fingers clasped like he was bracing for impact. I'm not trying to defend what happened. What I did. What we did. I know it's messed up. I know it hurt you. I know you don't owe me a single ounce of grace. I said nothing. But she lied to me too, he continued. She told me she was in a miserable marriage. That you were emotionally distant. Controlling. That you hadn't been intimate in months. That you stopped caring. My jaw clenched. She said you didn't notice when she left the house. That you forgot anniversaries. I cooked for her every damn week, I said. I planned our last anniversary alone. Bought her a gift she never even opened. We had issues, sure, but I never stopped showing up. He nodded slowly. I believe you now. Now? Why now? Because she told me she was ready to leave you. 3 times. And never did. And then she told me about Cal. Oh, so he didn't know about Cal until recently. His expression gave it away. A deep, ashamed scowl, like he was just realizing he wasn't her only side quest. She didn't tell me everything, he muttered. But after you left, she started spiraling. I asked her what happened. She said she'd lost control of the story. That's the phrase she used. The story. She really saw her life that way. As a narrative she could author, edit, revise. Change the characters when one didn't play the role she wanted. And if someone stopped believing the plot, she'd write them out. Curtis pulled out his phone. I almost stopped him. I didn't want more screenshots. But this wasn't a message. It was a voice memo. I recorded this the night after she called you, he said, pressing play. I heard her voice. Shaky. A little slurred. She must have been drinking. He left without a fight. Just vanished. No scene. No yelling. I think that scares me more than if he'd screamed at me. Dwight never acted like that. I thought he'd break. But he didn't. There was a pause. I think I underestimated him. Again. The recording stopped. Curtis locked his phone. Why are you showing me this? I asked. To make me feel sorry for her. No, he said. To tell you I'm done with her too. He slid something across the table, a white envelope. I found this in her purse. It wasn't addressed. I thought it was for me, at first. But after I read it, I realized it wasn't. I opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten letter. To me. Not by name. Just to the one I couldn't control. It was half confession, half manipulation. She wrote about how I'd become distant in ways I didn't understand, how she tried to feel alive again, how she thought I didn't want her anymore. But in between the rationalizations were flickers of truth she didn't mean to admit. I got addicted to the attention. I needed the contrast. Dwight was steady. The others made me feel wild again. I thought I could have both. I thought he'd never leave. I thought if I acted sorry enough, I could make him stay. But he didn't play his part. I folded the letter without finishing it. She hadn't written it out of guilt. She wrote it like a director whose actor walked off the set mid-scene. I looked up at Curtis. So what now? He looked just as tired as I felt. Now? I delete her number. You rebuild your life. And maybe we both stop being the audience to her drama. I didn't shake his hand when we left. We just nodded at each other, 2 men in the aftermath of the same storm, walking away from ground zero. I thought that was it, that I'd seen the worst. But a week later, my brother knocked on my door holding a legal envelope. Certified letter, he said, from Margot's lawyer. And when I opened it, I realized she hadn't let go. Not even close. Because what she was asking for next made everything else feel like the trailer before the real movie. I'll be honest, I didn't even open the envelope right away. I left it on the kitchen counter, sitting like a landmine between a half-empty coffee mug and a box of my brother's cereal. Just seeing her name printed in black ink across a manila folder from a real law office made my stomach twist into a knot so tight it felt like my spine was trying to curl in on itself. I'd done everything I could to walk away quietly. No drama, no revenge, just truth, and space, and silence. But apparently, silence wasn't good enough for Margot. When I finally peeled the seal and pulled the letter out, it didn't start with "Dear Dwight," or "Hope you're okay," or even "Let's talk." It opened with a demand. She wanted access to the apartment. She wanted the TV. She wanted the dining table her parents helped pay for. She wanted her yoga equipment, fine, but she also wanted the digital storage drive. The one I bought. The one where I backed up all our wedding photos, receipts, tax files, home videos, and yes, every stupid, painful memory I'd spent the last week trying to forget. She claimed emotional distress. She claimed I'd abandoned the property. She even claimed I'd removed items in violation of marital expectations. Whatever that means. It wasn't a divorce petition. Not yet. It was a legal poke in the ribs. A warning. A way to remind me she could still reach into my life whenever she pleased. That even from miles away, through a hired voice, she could still twist the knife. I sat on the edge of the couch, reading it 3 times. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was the kind of pathetic, empty power move someone makes when they've lost control of the narrative and they're clawing for any remaining thread. And that's when I stopped being quiet. I didn't call her. I didn't respond to her lawyer. Instead, I made a copy of everything. Elise's email, Curtis's text messages, the voice memo, even the unsigned to the one I couldn't control letter. I compiled it all. Then I did something I'd never done in our entire relationship. I told my side. I sent the full file to her parents, to her brother, and yes, to her podcast sponsors, the ones she proudly boasted about working with in every Instagram post. But I didn't slander her. I didn't make threats. I didn't curse or rant or shout. I sent a message with it that simply read, "You may want to know who you're investing in. These aren't allegations. They're facts, verified by the people she hurt." Then I logged off. I didn't care if she raged. I didn't care if she cried. I didn't care if she showed up screaming at my brother's front door like a tornado in lip gloss and fake apologies. What I cared about was that for once, she didn't control the story. But, like clockwork, she retaliated in the most Margot way imaginable. She posted a podcast episode. Not just any episode, a special episode. One that went live barely 24 hours later, titled, "Reclaiming Your Voice After Betrayal." I didn't want to listen to it. But I did. She didn't name me, obviously. That would have risked the sponsors. But she told the world her version, that she had suffered quietly in a marriage that stole her light, that she was manipulated into shame and judged for seeking joy where it existed. Then came the real kicker. He weaponized my past, used private pain against me, made sure I couldn't tell my truth before he smeared it with his. And in that moment, I realized she was never going to stop. Not until she had the last word. But what she didn't know, I still had one card left to play. Because a certain person, a woman she trusted, had reached out to me. And what she told me would unravel everything Margot thought she had safely buried. Her name was Talia. I barely remembered her. She was one of the quieter ones in Margot's orbit. Never loud on socials, never front row in brunch photos or spa trip selfies. Just a name I'd seen now and then in passing conversation. Talia had always struck me as the thoughtful friend. The kind of woman who didn't chase attention, who didn't jump into drama head first. Apparently, she'd been listening to everything without saying a word. Until now. Her message came through a few days after Margot's podcast episode dropped. It was short, respectful, and completely unexpected. "I'm sorry. I just can't sit by anymore. I know the truth. Do you have time to talk?" We met in a park, midday, no cameras, no drama. Just 2 people sitting on a weathered bench while the world spun quietly around us. Talia looked nervous. She told me she didn't want to get involved at first. That she believed Margot's side because, well, Margot had always been the louder one. The leader. The one with the explanations ready before questions were even asked. But after I left, Margot had spiraled. Not just emotionally, but strategically. She called her friends, twisting the story into something unrecognizable. She painted me as controlling, paranoid, even dangerous. She called Cal obsessed, Curtis a narcissist, and implied I'd colluded with her enemies to destroy her platform. Talia had listened, until she couldn't anymore. That's when she started asking questions. And what she found was the same trail I'd uncovered weeks ago. "Dwight," she said, "I'm sorry I ever believed her. I see it now. All of it. And you didn't deserve that." I didn't know what to say. For so long, I thought no one would ever see the full picture. That I'd quietly pack my boxes and disappear while Margot told a version of reality that erased me. But now, someone who used to sit at her table was sitting across from me, telling me she saw the cracks too. And then she told me something I hadn't expected. "She's afraid of you. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're still calm, still quiet. That scares her more than anything." We talked for almost an hour. Not just about the fallout, but about after. About healing. About finding a version of life that didn't revolve around repairing someone else's damage. And that's where the shift happened for me. Not when I exposed her. Not when people finally saw through her podcast persona. Not even when sponsors began to reevaluate the partnership. According to one very polite email I received days later. The real shift came when I realized I didn't need her to lose. I didn't need her reputation to collapse. I didn't need revenge anymore. What I needed was peace. So I started over. I moved out of my brother's place a month later. Found a one-bedroom rental with too much natural light and floors that creak when it rains. I changed my number. Deleted every message thread I'd spent hours rereading. I didn't respond to Margot's final attempt to have one last conversation for closure. Instead, I left her one last message. Not angry, not petty, just real. You taught me what I'll never settle for again. And for that, I genuinely thank you. She didn't reply, and that was the last time I ever heard from her. These days, I drink my coffee hot. I cook meals for one, and actually enjoy them. I even took a trip alone. No lies. No location sharing. Just me and a paper map in a town where no one knew my name. And would you believe it? On that trip, I met someone. No games. No charm. Just a woman who laughed at my bad jokes and said I seemed like someone who had finally come back to life. Maybe I had. Because here's the thing I learned the hard way. Sometimes the real revenge isn't slamming the door. It's walking away so quietly they don't hear it close until long after you're gone. And sometimes, that's the only closure you'll ever need.